It's like if there's a mind virus, that mind virus can infect too much of the world. Like I actually sort of sympathize with the anti-globalization people, because it's like, man, we don't ever want everywhere to be the same, for sure, and then we need some kind of like mind viral immunity. So that's it's a bit concerning. No, I'm talking about like there's some cockeyed concept that that happens right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I'm talking about a mind virus, I'm talking about like a concept that infects people's minds.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Like cult thinking or some sort of fundamentalism. But then in other places, you're reading these stories about hospitals that are essentially half empty. They're having to furlough doctors and nurses because there's no work for them.
Most of the hospitals in the United States right now are half empty. In some cases, they're at 30% capacity.
And is this because they've decided to forego elective procedures and normal things that people would have to go to the hospital for?
Yes, I mean, and we're not talking about just some of these elective procedures are quite important.
Yes.
Like it's like you have a bad heart.
Gallbladder disease, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and you need a triple bypass. It's like sort of elective, but if you don't get it done in time, you're going to die.
Yeah. Elective's a weird word.
Yeah, elective. It's not like, hey, I want to. It's not like plastic surgery or something.
Right. It's this thing. If this really does, I mean, initially it's going to help people with injuries, but you said ultimately it could lead to this spectacular cognitive change.
Yes.
But the people that first get it should have a massive advantage over people that don't have it yet.
Well, I mean, it's the kind of thing where your productivity would improve, I don't know, dramatically, maybe by a factor of 10 with it. So you could definitely just, I don't know, take out a loan and do it and earn the money back real fast.
Well, in a capitalist society, it seems like you could really get so far ahead that before everybody else could afford this thing and link up and get connected as well, you'd be so far ahead they could never catch you. Is that a concern?
I mean, there are huge differences in cognitive ability and resources already.
Yeah, when you say civilization's fragile, do you mean because of this COVID-19 shit that's going on right now?
Well, I mean, this certainly has taken over the mind space of the world to a degree that is quite shocking.
Yeah. Well, out of nowhere. That's what's crazy. It's like you go back to November, nothing. Now here we are, December, January, February, March, April, May, 6 months, totally different world. So from nothing to everything's locked down. There's so much conflicting information and conflicting opinions about how to proceed, what has happened.
And manufacturing used to be highly valued in the United States, and these days it's not. It's often looked down upon, which I think is wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think that people are kind of learning that, particularly because of this whole pandemic and this relationship that we have with China, that there's a lot of value into making things here.
Yes, somebody's got to do the real work.
Yeah.
And like making a car, it's an honest day's living, that's for sure. Or making anything really, or providing a valuable service, like providing good entertainment, good information. These are all valuable things to do. So yeah, there should be more of it. And I think there's given it's just a matter of time that there will be eventually some such pandemic.
Do you think that in a sense the one good thing that we might get out of this is the realization that this is a potential reality, that we got lucky in this sense? I mean, in people that didn't get lucky and died, of course, I'm not disrespecting their death and their loss, but I'm saying overall, as a culture, as a community, as a human race, as a community, this is not as bad as it could have been. This is a good dry run for us to appreciate that we need far more resources dedicated towards understanding these diseases, what to do in the case of pandemic, and much more money that goes to funding treatments and some preventative measures. For some reason, when people talk about simulation theory, they talk about the potential for this currently being a simulation. Even though your life might be wonderful, you might be in love, but it's not comforting to know that this experience somehow or another doesn't exist in a material form that you can knock on.
Feels real, doesn't it?
Feels real, but if it's not, but the idea that it's not is for some strange reason disconcerting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it should be disconcerting, because then if this is not real, what is? But there's that old sort of thought experiment of like, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Now here's the thing: you are a brain in a vat. Then that vat is your skull.
Yeah.
You see, it's
Yes,
horrible.
we're gross. My daughter, my 9-year-old daughter, yells at me. She goes, "Did you wash your hands?" She makes me go back and wash my hands. She's right. 9 years old. If I had a 9-year-old boy,
Sure.
do you think he would care?
No.
He wouldn't give a fuck if I washed my hands.
True. So yeah, I think there's definitely some silver linings here in improved hygiene.
Yes.
And
An awareness of potential.
yes, and I think this has shaken up the system. The system is like somewhat moribund with a lot of layers of bureaucracy, and I think that we've cut through some of that bureaucracy. And if we, at some point, there probably will be a pandemic with a high mortality rate. Part of it is like I have a bunch of houses, but I don't spend a lot of time in most of them, and that doesn't seem like a good use of assets. Like somebody could probably be enjoying those houses and get better use of them than me. So
Don't you have Gene Wilder's house?
I do.
That's amazing.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Yes, it's exactly what you'd expect.
Did you request that the buyer not fuck it up?
Yeah, that's a requirement.
Oh, a requirement.
Yeah.
That's a good requirement.
Yeah,
In that case, in that house.
yeah, it'll probably sell for less, but still, I don't care.
He's a legend.
Yeah,
You
he's
would
awesome.
want his soul. You find things where there was a meat packing plant, I believe, in Missouri, where 300 plus people were asymptomatic, tested positive or asymptomatic. And then in other places, it just ravages entire communities and kills people. And it's so weird. It almost appears on the like if you didn't know any better, you'd be like, "What?" It seems like there's a bunch of different viruses. It doesn't seem like it's the same thing, or has a bunch of different reactions to the biological variety of people. And again, this is not in any way disrespecting the people who have died from this disease.
No.
It's certainly a real thing to think of.
Yeah, I mean, it just should be if you're at risk, you should not be compelled to leave your house,
Right.
Or leave a place of safety. But you should also not be if you're not at risk, or if you are at risk and you wish to take a risk with your life, you should have the right to do that.
And it seems like at this point in time, particularly, our resources would be best served protecting the people that are at risk versus penalizing the people that are not at high risk. Like when I think about a symbiotic connection to AI, I always think of this cold, emotionless sort of thing that we will become. Is that a bad way to look at it?
I don't think that's not how it would be. Like I said, you already are
Yes.
symbiotic with AI or computers.
Phones, computers, laptops.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of AI going on. So artificial neural nets. Increasingly, neural nets are sort of taking over from regular programming more and more. So you are connected. If you use Google Voice or Alexa or one of those things, it's using a neural net to decode your speech and try to understand what you're saying.
I don't understand how you can run the Boring Company, Tesla, SpaceX, all these different things you're doing constantly. I mean, you explained last time you were here how you sort of allocate your time and how hectic it is and insane. It just doesn't make sense how you can get so much done.
Well, I think I do have high productivity, but even with that, there's still some opportunity cost of time. And allocating time to building a house, even if it was a really great house, it still is not a good use of time relative to developing the rockets necessary to get us to Mars and helping solve sustainable energy. SpaceX and Tesla are by far, the most amount of like brain cycles. Boring Company does not take, it's like less than 1% of brain cycles. And, I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that.
Symbiosis is a scary word when it comes to AI. And lifestyle, once you become a god, seems very, very unlikely you're going to want to go back to being stupid again. I mean, you literally could fundamentally change the way human beings interface with each other. Is that weird?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the paths to, like think like what are like AI is getting better and better. So now let's assume it's sort of like a benign AI scenario. Even in a benign scenario, we're kind of left behind. We're not along for the ride. We're just too dumb.
Right.
So how do you go along for the ride? So you can sort of see the kind of the brain develop, which is, what an AI neural net is trying to simulate what a brain does, basically. The word neural net comes from the brain. It's like a net of neurons. So, it's like humans are the, original gangster neural net.
So when you're programming artificial intelligence, or you're working with artificial intelligence, are they specifically trying to mimic the developmental process of a human brain?
In a lot of ways.
I've always wondered, as a layperson, do you try to achieve the same results as a human brain but through different methods, or do you try to copy the way a human brain achieves results?
I think we may be able to implant a neural link in less than a year in a person, I think. The probability of, it's well known, like what will cause rejection and what will not. It's definitely harder when you've got something that is reading and writing neurons. That's generating a current pulse and reading current pulses. That's a little harder than say a passive device, but it's still very doable. And there are people who have primitive devices in their brains right now.
What kind of devices?
Well, like deep brain stimulation is, I think for Parkinson's has really changed people's lives in a big way.